There are 4 weeks left in the NASCAR Cup Series regular season, and it will be a busy track in terms of who will make the playoffs. But not only that, drivers will have to face some rule changes and also drive in the playoffs as is for the last time. Let's dive into some of the changes and expectations. Cup drivers will go to Richmond, Michigan, Daytona, and Darlington before the field of 16 playoff drivers is determined. 12 drivers have at least one victory this year: Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, and Daniel Suarez, with 4 spots still available. Aside from the main point of interest of who reaches the playoffs and who does not, here are 4 important topics to follow over the next month. 1. Silly season continues. The majority of teams should finalize their 2025 lineups within the next month or two. Spire, Front Row, Colleague, and Rick Ware Racing are among the Cup teams with available positions right now. Trackhouse and 2311 Racing are both expected to add a third team. Trackhouse looks to be leaning toward Shane Van Gisbergen in its Cup car, while Riley Herbst is the most probable candidate for 2311, which brings further Monster Energy funding to a team that already has a relationship with the brand. Justin Haley, who drove for Spire in its first year in 2019 and pulled off the upset at Daytona by staying out when the rains hit, might return to Spire. He would take over for Corey LaJoie, who is a possibility to replace him at Rick Ware Racing. Zane Smith, currently on loan from Trackhouse to Spire, might return to Front Row. The crew also spoke with Sam Mayer, who has some financing. The Colleague openings and RWR may be depending on sponsorship. It is unclear whether any of their current Cup drivers will return. AJ Allmendinger has constantly stated that he will do anything Colleague requests and has not ruled out a comeback to the Cup. 2. Charter negotiations. The teams made a counteroffer to NASCAR a few weeks ago, and it appears that there have been few, if any, contacts between NASCAR and the teams regarding any meaningful negotiations. While there was anticipation that a settlement might be reached early in the summer, it now appears that the fall is more likely. It remains to be seen if the teams will be successful in obtaining what they seek. They want charters to be permanent and to get a larger share of television and other media rights and related earnings. However, NASCAR and its owner want something else. The next challenge for the racing teams may be this. With the current broadcast package being a 7-year arrangement, 2025 to 2031, should they sign a contract for 7 years and not hold out for anything long-term? That may be more beneficial to attempting to negotiate a longer-term contract, and teams may hope that NASCAR chairman Jim France, at the age of 79, hands over NASCAR to his nephew Ben Kennedy before the next deal is negotiated. If not, things could get really messy with the family that owns NASCAR. According to the Sports Business Journal, teams may decide not to participate in the next edition of the Netflix documentary about the sport in the hopes of using that as leverage to negotiate concessions from NASCAR about the charter deal. And with the series picking up when playoffs start, NASCAR has to be quick. But the reported $5 million+ cost of the documentary series doesn't compare to the saved money if they stick to their plan. So, it will be interesting to see if filming does start in a couple of weeks. 3. 2025 schedule announcement and changes. Remember back in May when there were rumblings that the schedule will be released sooner rather later? It turned out that later was the correct answer. It should happen this month. The emphasis is on should. Gateway, Darlington, and potentially New Hampshire are all expected to make the playoffs. Atlanta, as previously indicated, returns in the summer, while Watkins Glen may return in the summer and Homestead in the spring. What about Mexico City? Depending on the week, it is either almost certain or doubtful. If this happens, Richmond is the most likely track to lose a date. The emphasis is on likely. Iowa, new in 2024. Chicago Street Track, with a deal with the city that allows cancellations until January, and COTA, leased by Speedway Motorsports for NASCAR races, are scheduled to return to the Cup calendar. While there has been some discussion about Rockingham, it is not likely to be on the Cup calendar. It is more likely that other national series will race there. There will also be some changes to the tracks used for the playoffs in 2025. According to a tentative schedule, Talladega Superspeedway, one of NASCAR's most fearsome courses, will likely advance to the semi-final round in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoff calendar. Talladega has always been in the second round of NASCAR's 4-round knockout playoff system, which debuted in 2014. Even that early round spot has sparked some controversy among drivers due to Talladega's reputation for unpredictability. It frequently gives drivers the impression that they have little control over their fate on the drafting-dependent circuit, where large multi-car collisions are usual. In contrast, such factors make the 2.6-mile Alabama circuit very popular among spectators, with Talladega races frequently ranking among the most viewed on television. Talladega is one of many modifications NASCAR plans to make to next year's 10-race playoff format, which will reduce the 16-driver field every 3 races. Darlington, Gateway, and New Hampshire will host playoff events rather than regular season races as previously said. These 3 venues will replace Atlanta, Watkins Glen, and Homestead, Miami, which will all return to the regular season. NASCAR is planning to announce the whole 2025 Cup Series calendar as soon as possible, according to various industry sources who have been informed on the topic but are not permitted to comment publicly. One of the remaining barriers NASCAR must pass is reaching an agreement to add an international points race, which league management have openly acknowledged is a desire. NASCAR hosted its last Cup points race outside the United States in 1958 at the Canadian Exposition Stadium in Toronto, Ontario. NASCAR is still in talks with race promoters in Mexico City and Montreal, with the former being regarded as the clubhouse's de facto leader. Should NASCAR reach an agreement with Mexico City, the proposed date is June 8, 2025. However, circumstances may need a different date. A race in Montreal would likely have to be scheduled later in the year. The 2025 potential playoff schedule. Round 1, August 31st, Darlington Raceway. September 7th, Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. September 13th, Bristol Motor Speedway. Round 2, September 21st, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. September 28th, Kansas Speedway. October 5th, Charlotte Motor Speedway, Roval. Round 3, October 12th, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. October 19th, Talladega Super Speedway. October 26th, Martinsville Speedway, Championship Race. November 2nd, Phoenix Raceway. 4. Richmond and tires. NASCAR will provide teams 2 sets of softer tires for this weekend's race at Richmond, the same option rubber from North Wilkesboro that never wore down as soon as projected. However, Richmond's surface is substantially rougher than the repaved North Wilkesboro. Teams had 9 sets of the standard tire in the spring, 8 sets of stickers and 1 set of scuffs from qualifying, but will only have 7 sets, 6 stickers, and 1 set of scuffs for this 400-lap event, in addition to the 2 softer sets. When teams tried the softer tire in Iowa earlier this year, they only lasted 15 laps. Teams are still unsure how many laps they can do before losing significant time, or worse, due to wear. NASCAR plans to offer teams 45 minutes of practice Saturday at Richmond to assess how much the softer tire wears and how quickly it goes. That is obviously weather-dependent and tropical cyclone. Debbie may not be very accommodating in the area Saturday. Whether NASCAR will employ the softer tire in any postseason races remains to be seen. Richmond isn't the only track where teams may be scratching their heads on tires as the series progresses to the playoffs. At a Bristol tire test last month, drivers reported the same tire wear difficulties as in the spring. While it was originally considered that temperature affected the tire in the spring, it is now possible that the mix of the Bristol concrete and the resin utilized caused the specific durability issues. However, if all teams are aware of the challenges they face, they may be able to race accordingly. It's unclear whether NASCAR will offer them more sets than initially anticipated. It will be interesting to see the biggest question is, are you happy to see NASCAR returning again this weekend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and predict this week's winner as well once you're down there.